All right, as we continue with our coverage of the water crisis in the country, we now touch base with our reporters, Ziniko Mhlaba, who is still in the area of Johannesburg, and Nqobile Madlala in the province of the Northwest. Ziniko, let's come to you first. Whereabout are you now, and how is that community dealing with the water rationing? I think that's how we should possibly term it, given what is going on.
Well, Xoli, in Sophia town on the western side of Johannesburg, as we are heading towards other areas. So we decided to catch up with the emergency medical services here in the city of Johannesburg to get a sense of how they are dealing and how are the operations affected by the water shortages or water cuts which have been announced by the Johannesburg Water, another entity of the city of Johannesburg. Remember that the city of Johannesburg has been experiencing some fire challenges. So should anything happen in any part of the city of Johannesburg, how are the emergency medical services geared up for any eventuality? I'm joined now by Usisi Nana Khatebe, who's going to give us, who speaks for the city of Johannesburg emergency services. Thank you very much, Nana. A very, very crucial time. We're heading towards the festive season. The past few weeks have been very difficult for the emergency services, various crises we have to deal with. Now you have a situation where it is announced that an entire day can be spent without the availability of water in some areas of the city of Johannesburg. How have you geared up for such moments, especially in case of any eventuality?
Indeed, it's been a difficult time for the city of Johannesburg emergency services. We've seen a spurge of fires that we've had to deal with. But in this case, we were made aware by the Joburg Water of the areas that would not have availability of water in case of any emergencies. Then we'd had to do a contingency plan, which is to move vehicles. We have water tankers that we have taken to nearby fire stations in case of emergency around those areas. Like where we are right now, we are nearby to the Brixton fire station. We have a water tanker there that would be able to respond with a fire engine and other backup vehicles to ensure that we're not in shortage of water, and vehicles can be able to move in and around to areas to refill in case of any emergency.
So in terms of practical advice, what can an ordinary person who's in Alexandra right now in an area that has water shortage, in case of an emergency, there's a fire, there's a kiln, there's a stove that bursts into fire, what are the practical terms, what are the practical solutions or homemade plans can that person do to ensure that they're able to put out fire in the absence of water? So how practical and realistic can those people find help as soon as possible?
It would be quite difficult for the people themselves to be able to do that. But we have teams that would go out and teach people to do the bucket system, where one household will have a bucket and the next one would have. But in this case, where there's no water, would still advise them to call us. But if they have to keep that bucket of water and do the emergency response that we have taught them, we have teams that we have put in place in most of the areas where we have trained people on what to do in case of an emergency, and that they would have to call us while busy with the water system, with the water bucket system. Call us so that we'll be able to assist.
Okay, so now, just my last question to you. We're heading towards the festive season. As we said earlier on, the city has been responding to many fire responses, fire challenges, fire calls from the city of Johannesburg. Has anything been done in terms of capacitating the entity with more resources, maybe so that we are able to deal with these cases?
For now, we still have the resources that we've had. What we had to do is to identify areas. We have high-risk areas. We have seen that in the CBD, we're dealing with high-rise buildings where we'd have to have a certain model of vehicle that we have to utilize in order to deal with those fires. So we'd move vehicles closer in terms of their specification and to areas where they can be utilized. We don't say that other areas would not be covered, but we have identified high-risk areas where we normally have fires. Then vehicles will be able to respond in less time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
much. That's Nana Nqobile, the City of Johannesburg Emergency Services spokesperson, giving us a sense of how the entity is gearing up for the festive season, but also how these water shortages have affected their work, but also saying that they do have measures in place, but unfortunately very limited plans available for those who are far away from the fire stations. Earlier on in Alexander, so those communities will still need to call emergency medical services through the normal route, and hopefully that they can be able to get those services as urgent as possible. So that's it from us here in Johannesburg, here in Sophia Town.
Ziniko Mhlaba, thank you very much. Let's shift then and bring in Nqobile Madlala, who is with the residents of Madibeng municipality. In the past, you'll remember that community has taken to the streets with the hope of highlighting the community's frustration with erratic water supply. Nqobile, what's the situation there like now?
Well, I think the irony is that we're at the municipal offices, and what we're seeing is that they've got sprinklers on, which is something very different to where we're coming from, because the community in Townsville has not had water for at least 3 to 4 days, and they're waiting for water. But this area has sprinklers. So I want to bring in now the community forum to speak to us about the issues that the community is facing. I understand that you were here to obviously discuss and try to find solutions for your community. What have you found out so far?
What we have found out is that they told us that they will be pumping water this afternoon. But that they also told us yesterday. But we want to take this thing further. Damonsville area, 50% of the area, it is informal settlements. And those informal settlements don't have standpipes. There's no water tankering coming to our area. Now, I want to address this thing also to the Minister, Gwede Mantashe, because this mines here have promised Gwede that they will be giving us clean drinkable water from Northern Mine. Now, that project is on the SLP, Social Labour Plan, for the past 15 years. They did not implement what they have promised the community. Northern Mine, which is called Elam, for the last 15 years, they have promised us clean, drinkable water from the mine. Because the mine is pumping out billions of liters from underground mining, which is just going to waste. And that water they could have put in a pipeline and send it to our communities, which they are not doing. And people must understand that in the previous time when there was no water, 3 residents have lost their lives because we had a march. Now this time we are not burning tires anymore, because we are putting our people's lives into jeopardy. Now, what we are saying is that we want the national government really to come down. Because if there is no township approval for our informal settlement, which we have made an application to Madibeng, it's now for the last 15 years, that they can't even approve township approval. Now, those are the things that creates problems for our communities. And when our communities takes the street, then they want to say that the community is at fault. How can they bring services to us and township approval is not have been approved? That means there won't be no designs for any development in our area. The first thing that they need to do is to make sure that township approval is there. But they are failing us, and we as a community, we are saying that enough is enough. That means we can't get clean drinkable water for our people, we can't get electricity, and we can't get any sewer. That means we are living in the dark ages.
And I mean, whilst you talk about that, I want to find out how many communities are affected in this area.
It's a lot of communities, because people must understand that after 1994, the communities have grown. And what affects us here also affects other areas. There's a lot of informal settlements. That means development can't take place because the government of today are doing nothing about it. And we ask national government, please to send down a team to Madibeng so that we can address these issues, because without township approval, there won't be any development for our people.
And once you seek for that township approval, I mean, there are a lot of people that are affected currently. We're speaking to some of the residents that were telling us that they haven't had water for quite some time. If you could give us an idea, how many wards are you speaking to that is affected? And how many days has it been that communities here don't have water?
Yeah, it's about 40% of the communities that is affected. 40%. Now you must understand that the irony is that our communities are taking services and not paying for it. Now the communities is saying that we want to pay for services, but you are not bringing development to us. Now you may find out that Madibeng residents, 40% of them are using electricity illegally and not paying for water because the community has put in their own pipes and they're having some type of water, but it's not enough.
And I mean, as a community forum, shouldn't that be something that you speak to the community about?
Yes, we have addressed it. We have addressed it every year in our budget because before a budget has been approved, the community is giving the government of the day what is a priority in the community. Now, in our community, we said our priority is water. We have said it. All communities have said that our priority is water. And without this township approval, because after this township approval, that means the reservoirs needs to be upgraded. Because the reservoir that we have here, it's only there meant for Damansville proper, where there is township approval. But all the informal settlements, where will they get water? Because there is not long-term planning. What they need to do, they have to make sure that the bulk services are in place. Because if bulk services are in place, that means our communities in the informal settlements will have services. But if the bulk services are not in place, that means there's disaster coming.
All right. Thank you very much for speaking to us. That's, of course, the Community Forum, touching on very important things there, Oli, that there needs to be an address in terms of the bulk services, meaning that so that people can all have that water. But it's interesting also that there's that issue of not paying for these services. And of course, we are going to be speaking to some of the municipal leaders to hear what exactly are they going to do, because these communities still need that basic need, which is water.
Madlala, thank you very much. Very, very incensed community member there in Madibeng. Thank you for bringing that to us.